issued a major 6-2 decision which just changed the landscape of agency overreach and is going to have major implications for many agencies like the ATF and their current Second Amendment violations. So let's break down what just happened with this issue. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we're going to be discussing two important cases which were just decided by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has issued two decisions, and these are historic decisions which are going to have broad-reaching implications and is going to impact a lot of issues, including Second Amendment overreach by the agencies like the ATF. The cases we're going to be discussing are LocalPrepper Enterprises versus Raimondo, and then also the Relentless case, which is against the U.S. Department of Commerce. These cases use issues over fishing to bring an end to Chevron deference once and for all. And in a 6-2 decision and then also a 6-3 decision, both of these cases by the Supreme Court have been issued and it overruled Chevron once and for all. These decisions are landmark legal precedent which going forward will restrict agencies like the ATF who are trying to broadly interpret statutory text however they want to simply have these courts defer to them and their judgment under Chevron. Now, if you're not aware what Chevron deference refers to, Chevron deference is a term coined after a Supreme Court case, which is the Chevron versus the NRDC decision, and that was issued back in 1984. This case established the concept of courts giving deference to agency interpretations of ambiguous statutory terms and text that Congress has essentially tasked that agency with implementing. The argument under Chevron is that when a statute is ambiguous or silent in some way on some issue, the agency responsible for enforcing that statute may be able to determine what Congress intended as long as their interpretation was deemed rational or reasonable by a court. Now, in contrast to Chevron deference, there are other canons of construction and essentially interpretation that courts could use. They could use things like the rule of lenity, which indicates that when dealing with criminal statutory interpretations, any unclear or ambiguous statute or term text could in fact be interpreted in a way that is more favorable to the people, not the enforcement agency like the ATF. There are other concepts like the major question doctrine, which the Supreme Court recently used last year, I believe, in the West Virginia versus EPA case, and then also they used in a different case which dealt with student loans. Now, since 2016, the Supreme Court has moved away from using Chevron and has tried to limit it and kind of put restrictions on it, but you've seen a lot of lower courts still exclusively rely on Chevron, and so it was time for the Supreme Court to finally address whether or not they were going to overrule Chevron altogether or put very, very significant restrictions on it. And ultimately what they decided was to do away with Chevron once and for all. Now, the facts surrounding this case which led to this decision are as follows. LocalPrepper Enterprises is a family-owned herring fishing company that operates out of New England. Now, on these very small boats, every inch of space is very important. However, in the herring industry, there was a new rule that came out of the National Marine Fisheries Services, or the NMFS. This new regulation required that the herring fishing boats were going to be required to have an additional person on board to serve as a monitor. The rule required this additional monitor so that the boats could be in compliance with their tracking compliance, and essentially that was going to be required under federal regulations. Not only does that additional person on the boat take up space, but then the boats themselves were going to be required to pay that monitor's salary, which was an estimated $700 per day. So not only was it going to take up space, but it was going to cost every single boat a lot of money, and it would cut into their profits. LocalPrepper Enterprises and other fisheries sued and challenged this rule, arguing that the NMFS lacks statutory authority to force them to pay for these monitors. And it's this issue about fishing and statutory interpretation to require these monitors. It's that issue that went up to the Supreme Court. Now, the big question in front of the Supreme Court was whether or not to overhaul Chevron altogether, or at the very least put very significant limitations on the ability of an agency to use Chevron when a statute is silent on an issue. Now, also, there was a different case called the Relentless case that dealt with the very same issue that was consolidated also with the LBE case. So there was two cases, two decisions that were issued by the Supreme Court. Now, in a 6-2 decision, authored by Chief Justice Roberts, the court has overruled Chevron entirely. So that is a huge win. The majority opinion was authored by Roberts, and it was joined by Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. The dissent was Kagan and Sotomayor. Now, in this LBE case, Justice Jackson had to recuse herself, so that's why you have this very weird 6-2 decision. But then in the Relentless case, which again was consolidated and plays simply off this same issue, That's where you have the 6-3 decision because Justice Jackson also served in the dissent. Now, in the decision of the court, they state that the Administrative Procedures Act requires a court to exercise their independent judgment in deciding whether an agency has acted within its statutory authority, and courts may not defer to an agency's interpretation of the law simply because a statute is ambiguous. And then they state Chevron is overruled. The court goes on to state that the deference that Chevron requires of courts reviewing agency actions cannot be squared with the Administrative Procedures Act. They stated that one of the big issues after Chevron was that all the lower courts following Chevron then kind of expanded it and found that whenever there was an ambiguity or silence on any of these issues, courts would just automatically just defer to whatever the agency said. And they said that caused a lot of issues, and that was never what the framers intended when, of course, they structured our government. They state that perhaps most fundamentally, Chevron's presumption is misguided because agencies have no special competence in resolving statutory ambiguities. Courts do. The framers anticipated that courts would often confront statutory ambiguities and expect that courts would resolve them by exercising independent legal judgment. Chevron gravely erred in concluding that the inquiry is fundamentally different just because an administrative interpretation is in play. Delegating ultimate interpretive authority to agencies is simply not necessary to ensure that the resolution of statutory ambiguities is well informed by subject matter expertise. Chevron has proved to be fundamentally misguided. It reshaped judicial review of agency action without grappling with the APA, the statute that lays out how such review works, and its flaws were apparent from the start, prompting the court to revise its foundations and continually limit its application. Experience has shown that Chevron is unworkable. The defining feature of the framework is the identification of statutory ambiguity, but the concept of ambiguity has always evaded meaningful definition. Such an impressionistic and malleable concept cannot stand as an everyday test for allocating interpretive authority between courts and agencies. The court has also been forced to clarify the doctrine again and again, only adding to Chevron's unworkability, and the doctrine continues to spawn difficult threshold questions that promise to further complicate the inquiry should Chevron be retained. And based on all of that, the court has found Chevron is unworkable, it should have never existed, and therefore they overruled Chevron altogether. Now this again was a big decision and goes a very long way to rein in federal regulatory agencies and their overreach, and this involves many areas, not just when it comes to firearms and the Second Amendment and the ATF. This is going to impact the EPA, the FDA, the FFA, the FAA, and a lot of other agencies as well. So keep in mind, the ATF did kind of see the writing on the wall when it came to all this stuff. They started to move away in some ways from exclusively kind of relying on Chevron. So for example, a good example of that would be the Cargill case, where they stated that under the plain text of the GCA, they believe that the statutory term and definition of a machine gun did in fact include items like bump stocks. So they said based on the express text, bump stocks were machine guns. But then later on in that same brief, they would say that, okay, if the court found that the term machine gun was ambiguous in some way, well, then the court should simply just rely on Chevron and defer to the agency's interpretation that they believed bump stocks were machine guns. So you can see, as in some of these cases, the ATF was not exclusively relying on Chevron. They saw the writing on the wall, so they tried to move away from it. But still, this goes a very long way to reining in agency overreach and just completely does away with this backstop that agencies had for a very long time. So again, this decision is going to go a long way if you're a fan of reining in federal regulations and reining in agency overreach. This is a huge decision and is going to impact a lot of things, and I'm very excited to see this decision. Awesome news. I know a lot of people are excited for this. So the Supreme Court issued a major 6-2.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're having a great, what is today? Tuesday? Tuesday is trash day. Yeah, that's my world. Let me get this banner turned off here real quick. If somebody can give me a comm check, that would be great. I'd appreciate it. If somebody over there on the Rumble side could wake the hell up and check in, it would be super duper. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and start with the YouTube side. Currently, the score is 12-6 in YouTube's favor. Rose, first, Jordan O'Deal. Number 2, in Catitude, you are deterred. Debbie's in the house. We got Bob Pita. We got Cuck V. Anja. Sounds Goose aus Germany. I got you. I love me a little bit of Hamburg. I love me some Freising. Freising's the place right there. But welcome to the stream, Anja. I don't recognize your name. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tuck is in the house. We got All American Preppers here. And let's see here. Yeah, Bob Pita says 5x5. Hicktown Honey finally checked in. Good morning and first. Good to go. Thank you guys very much for doing that for me. I do appreciate it. As you can tell by the audio that I was playing, that was actually another YouTuber. I think what is it? The armed aficionado or the armed something. But so I just turned it into audio instead of video for you because I don't want YouTube to give me a strike or anything. But I thought it was important that you guys hear that, even though it was very detailed, because that came out yesterday as well, but no one said anything about it. Basically, they struck down Chevron deference. And I'm not going to explain it to you, but the bottom line is that our government was basically running amok, doing whatever they wanted to do with this little law that they could turn into anything. And now it's even a better time now to think about it's time to, I really shouldn't say this within the first 3 minutes of the video. So I'm gonna meander a little bit here. I'm gonna say good morning to James Trump 24 Price. Good morning. I'm gonna say good morning to Ian. Ian, your package is in the mail. I should be let me make a note here to email you or to send you something so that you know what the hell's going on. Compose. I send myself emails. Kind of as little reminder notes to myself, and I'm also burning time so I can say what I want to say. Yes, Tucked, it's the Armed Scholar. Thank you very much. Let's see. All American Prepper says, let's see here. Everybody has permission to use my content anytime for any reason. Anybody has permission to use my content anytime for your own. Everybody has permission to use my content anytime for your own channel. Gotcha. Beecher. Good morning. We got Arrow Rings. Good morning to you. I don't recognize you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right there. Okay, I think we're 4 minutes into it. We're deep enough into it. So listen, guys, now is the time. And it's also Andy. Good morning. What do we got here? Andy says, and obviously they're on Rumble, so I can't say anything. I can't post their comments on the screen. But Andy says, Congress has to be responsible for the laws they pass now. Absolutely. Well, with Chevron deference, basically they were allowed to make lots of what they call rules. And because it came from a governing body, from unelected, bureaucrats, that rule had the force of law, which means that it also became like a law. They could use force, they could penalize you, they could arrest you, they could do lots of things. But now that it's been struck down, and it's funny too that the left had decided to argue about immunity over this when one of their main platforms is gun control. So as I was saying, right now, it's very important to think about protecting yourself as we get closer and closer and people get crazier and crazier because there's everything out there. Yesterday was basically a total S show. And, it's just mind blowing, the things that are coming out of people's mouths, even to the point where now the Secret Service is involved and like trying to find or going to make visits to certain people. And I won't even say their names here because they said some really stupid stuff, that was like very like threats against the president or threats against a former president. Yeah, they kind of believe that they were protected by some form of liberal shield, but they forgot that even while they were espousing America, democracy, that they had rules they had to follow as well. So, Laser, good morning, LP, and the Prepper family. And Laser, you are deterred on Rumble. Oops, showed up. Good morning, my friend. Good morning. Good to see you guys. All right, so I think we have a large enough amount of people to get this party started. Currently, the YouTube is winning 16-13. So Rumble people, tell your friends. Yeah, Harry better be invested. I know what you meant investigated. No, he will. So basically there's an influencer named Harry Sisson. He's been running his suck for about the last year. He's kind of the firebrand for the left's. Let's put it this way: he is paid by. He goes to NYU. He's supposed to be pre-law, but it's a joke. If he was taking pre-law, he would not be speaking this way. He's 20-something years old. It's like, there's an old elder that I know that basically said, never listen to anybody who's not at least 30 years old, because they generally don't have even the slightest clue as to what's coming out of their mouths. But he's been on the he's been in the White House. He's been to several gatherings. He's met Captain JoJo, red or blue tie, it's so he thinks that he was above everything, and now he's going to find out that he's not. Even if nothing happens to him, people wearing suits and earpieces will still come knocking on his door probably today and say, "Could you tell us what you meant when you texted that?" Let's see here. So listen, as usual, I told you guys we're going to stay away from political stuff from now on. That kind of spewed out of me, but we segued into it. But the reality is that we need to be more focused on our preparedness, even more every day now. And we have to start thinking about the possibility of the necessity to defend what is ours, our homes, our families, our lifestyles, whatever it may be. We need to start thinking about that now. When considering the use of firearms and related training from a preparedness perspective, it's essential to cover a range of aspects, including legal considerations, safety protocols, effective usage. And so, as usual, I've written down at least 10 things that we need to think about, given a little bit of thought, I can't. Obviously, if we had to speak about the specifics of one specific area, we would be here for days. So we have to kind of generalize things and give you, follow the goal of these videos, which is to get you to think about your preparedness. Okay. Let's see here. It says, what was it last night, Tuck? I guess you missed it, Ibs. The president spoke for 7 minutes and said nothing. Okay, so taking a sip of coffee and getting right to it. We're going to talk about firearms use and training for preparedness. First things first, guys, whether we like it or not, we do live in a world of laws, and legal understanding and compliance should be at the top of our list. Okay. You should know the laws. You should familiarize yourself with federal, state, and local laws regarding firearm ownership, carry and usage, and you should ensure that you understand regulations on storage, transport, and self-defense scenario. Key things you should, and I will say this over and over throughout this video. One, you should know reciprocity, because just because something's a specific way in your state, you may not find it to be the same in the other state. Know the reciprocity laws. Okay. If you're traveling into another state, and specifically with concealed carry, or even open carry, depends. Some states offer border to border open carry. North Carolina and Virginia are the same way. They're open carry states. But no reciprocity. And know that there are differences in the states. Just because there's reciprocity does not mean that they have an exact same law as the other state. Also, understand licensing requirements. In some states, you're going to need to obtain permits and licenses, such as concealed carry permits, and keep them updated. People have a tendency to forget about that. For instance, North Carolina, I believe, is three years, and they'll remind you 90 days out whether that you need to renew that concealed carry permit. So know the legal understanding and compliance of the laws and requiring, licensing requirements. Printing is legal in Florida. Printing is legal in Florida. Okay, Tuck. Printing is legal in most states. Let's see here. Let's see. Andy says, believe it or not, Harry, assassination is not a protected constitutional duty. Yeah, exactly. My name's renewed this fall. Hicktown Honey says, yeah, I need to renew mine as well. Time is coming. It's attached to my driver's license, and my license needs to be renewed here shortly as well. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. Also, guys, make sure that you are commenting on these sections, because I like to go to the comments and read them after I finish the section. So with that said, number 2, safety protocols, okay, and responsible ownership. If you think this is the wild, wild west, you are wrong. It's never going to be the wild, wild west. I think out west, there are a couple states that are similar, that are basically open carry, concealed carry, constitutional carry, and there's some people that are just flat out nuts. But be aware, they have a constitutional right to carry that firearm, okay? So let's think about some of the safety protocols and responsible ownership, okay? Because we need to keep the statistics correct. That that a very small statistical number of people who own firearms actually legally own firearms actually commit crimes, that actually do things that are unresponsible or violate simple safety protocols. Okay, we do see this as a toy. We do see this as a tool, not a toy. We do have fun firing them, but for the most part, we all understand that these are things that are going to defense our lives. So first and foremost, safe handling. Always treat firearms as if they're loaded. Practice safe handling, including keeping the muzzle pointed in a safe direction and finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. Now, we got into the weeds on that one, and the reason is actually pretty simple. In most cases where people shoot themselves, they're actually putting the firearm back into their holster. That's not a joke. That's 100% verified statistical fact, because that is the one thing that most people almost never practice. So, something to think about. Also, secure storage. Store firearms securely to prevent unauthorized access. Use gun safes or locks as necessary, and ensure that they're inaccessible to children or intruders. Some child laws are extremely harsh, so the last thing you want is for little Tommy to be playing boom boom with your pew pew. And that almost didn't sound right, but I think you guys know what I was talking about. And we need to be very aware of that. If it's something that you do not have out or set up for personal defense, then it probably should be locked away. It's that easy. Okay. If it is something that you have set up and prepared for personal defense, then obviously it more than likely is unlocked. It may be in a nightstand drawer. It may be tucked into the side of your bed. It may be somewhere. Someone may be following the 20-foot rule. If you guys didn't know what that is, there are some preppers out there that actually have a firearm within 20 feet of them at all times, which means they have firearms strategically placed within their dwelling, their home, so that they can get to them. I've even seen one where, what was it on Doomsday Preppers, where this woman had a revolver. It was a 38 special stub nose in a like a coffee can in her pantry, just in case. So just be aware that even though you think it's a great idea, there may be people that are in your environment that you really should be aware of that may have a tendency to think that things are fun and cool and might think it's a play toy when it's not. So let's see. We're going to go to the chat real quick here. Looks like you guys got it cranked up right here. Currently YouTube 19, Rumble 14, guys. Yeah, let's see here. So on the Rumble side, let's see here. Let's see here. Andy says, I have a natural. Oh, there it is. First one of the day. Let's try it again. Andy says, I have a natural God-given right to carry. The Constitution just tells government to screw off if they want to infringe. Absolutely true. Good Boys Guild. Good morning, my friend. Good to see you, lady. Good to see you. Let's see here. Hicktown studies. We sweep the house before children come in. But rule number 1 for kids is if you see a gun, you don't touch and you tell me immediately. Yes, absolutely. I grew up with firearms in my life. I had my first, actually, it was a 410 shotgun when I was 11 years old. I was taught immediately that this is a tool. This is not a toy. We use it to do specific things. It's not fun time. And that's how I grew up. And that's how I've taught all of my kids. If they do see a firearm, they know that it's not a toy. And obviously, when we have younger kids in the house, we do our sweep before we let's just say we prepare before the kids come over, before the grandkids come over. We prepare. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and check the Rumble chat now. Let's see. Hudson Valley, Prepper and Survival. Oops, Alive with American. I don't know what that's about. Let's see here. Lifetime license in Indiana. I like that. Rose says, get medical training, increase something in case something happens when you get out and training or using 100%. And that is actually one of the last things that I always talk about when I talk about firearms. Stark from Canada. Good morning, Star. Good to see you. Good to see you. Saul Moore's in the house. Good to see you, bro. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Tuck says, I got my first at age 10, a Marlin Model 60. My parents didn't start as young, so we never had any problems with any unsafe handling. Gotcha. Let's see here. Oops says, still have a Model 60 from about 10. First was a Glenfield 15 bolt and a single 410. Yep. Breech loaded, baby. Breech loaded. Click and boom. Flies it right out of there. Let's see here. Andy Pearson says a gun is always at arm's reach. I got you, bro. I got you, bro. I don't live like that, but I know where my firearms are and I know how to get to them and I know how to use them. And that's what is really, really the point of this. The point of this. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Andy, as Andy, Ian says, as odd as it sounds, my first modern gun I shot was an M16A2. I got you, Ian. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and roll on to number 3, regular training and proficiency. So, unfortunately, there are some people that, they buy a firearm and they watch YouTube videos and they shoot some cans and they think this is pretty cool. And then they put it in the holster and they put it on the shelf. Or worse, they start carrying it around and have actually done no training, have not educated themselves at all with the use of that firearm. It's a problem. Oh, it's simple, man. Just point and click, right? Yeah, no, it's not. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. In fact, just hitting your target is not that easy. So frequent practice, regularly practice at a shooting range to maintain proficiency or in your backyard, whichever your state allows. Focus on accuracy, speed, and control in various scenarios. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. We also want to do what they call called skill development. You might want to participate in advanced training courses that cover defensive shooting techniques, stress management under duress, and situational awareness. Now, as we dive a little bit deeper into some of this training, you guys have to understand that there's the possibility that if you did use your firearm in a self-defense shooting, that you would be seen as some form of radical. The DA would definitely be trying to use that to attack you if charges were brought against you. So we'll talk about it here in one of these other sections, but understand that that is something that actually exists. Let's see here. Great gun for what I put it through. Where are we at here? And okay, so I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Do me a favor, guys. You can fire up the algorithm. Give me a type the number 1 if you love your firearms. Let's wake up the algorithm, guys. Let's wake up the algorithm. All right. So the next one is self-defense and tactical training. Oh, somebody just typed something. Andy says the church security team trains with a competitive shooter. Before first shot, we go through some workout to get the heart rate up and breathing up. Yes, absolutely true. That's an excellent drill to do that with. We actually had great. Where are we at? Tuck put something in there. Last year, a guy at the range kept flagging us. He also couldn't get his pistol to function. Turns out he was trying to load the wrong caliber. Training is essential, guys. Training is essential. You have to have it. The thing is it's not really about, the people who don't train, they have this mentality that they're going to be fine. Okay. They don't understand that not having some form of training, even if it's at the basic, like NRA intro gun handling, fire pistol 101, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's only that, they don't understand that they're actually endangering other people, inadvertently or negligently endangering other people. So it's something that they should probably be doing, and something I recommend that other people do as well. Current score is 21-17. YouTube in the lead. Self-defense and tactical training. Scenario-based training, we're talking about is engaging in, self-defense courses that simulate real-life scenarios. Learn to respond to threats effectively while minimizing risk to yourself and bystanders. What I'll say here is, when we talked about the legalities of some particular situations, don't worry about how that will look in court, because you will be alive. Also, use of cover and concealment. Understand how to use available cover to protect yourself during offensive encounter. Practice movement and shooting from behind cover. Now, if you guys didn't know this, people mix them up all the time. Just so you know, cover is something that could stop a bullet. Concealment basically makes you harder to see. That's the real difference. All right, so I'm going to go to the chat here real quick. We got some oops. Let's see. Grumpy Acres has showed up in the house. Everyone has a right for safety purposes. Not all should exercise them. That's right. There are some Looney Tunes out there, my friend. There are some Looney Tunes out there. Tuck says, yeah, it was. They're still talking about their little pew-pews. Hey, listen, you guys got a bromance? Take it offline. Get a room. They're talking about how awesome their little pea shooter guns were when they were kids, and they were. We, if you had them, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Looks like West Virginia Pappy is omnipresent as usual. Stop. Good morning, my friend. Good to see you. All right, so let's go with understanding firearm types and their uses, which actually goes to what I think it was Tucker Ian was saying about the guy was having problems with the firearm because he's trying to put the wrong bullets inside his firearm. Select, obviously, you want to select the firearm for its purpose. Choose firearms based on their intended use, such as home defense, personal carry, or hunting. You also might want to consider factors like caliber, size, ease of use. I know that there are some small framed women who won't shoot 45 or above. It's simply because there's a lot of recoil involved with those firearms, and they just don't have the wrist strength or whatever it is. Either way, do it. Maintenance knowledge. Learn to clean and maintain your firearm properly to ensure their reliability and longevity. You don't know how many times I've gone to the range with a guy and all his weapon does is jam up. And then you go to look at it, and it's just caked with carbon because he's never actually taken it apart and cleaned it. It's just a boom stick to him that he can take and play with, which mirrors his mentality. So yeah, there's that. Let's see here. Ian says, where we at? Only training I've ever had was with black powder. I got you. Okay. Let's see here. So nothing subjective in the chat. So what I'm going to have to do now, unfortunately, is what's that? No, it's not unfortunately, but since you're not talking, I'm going to talk. Let's see. I'm going to pick one and see what I do yesterday. You know what? He's in the house. I'm going to talk to you about Grumpy Acres Farms, guys. Grumpy Acres Farms is one of the sponsors. He's one of He's one of the silent no, he's not. He's one of our sponsors for Prepstock, prepstock.net. Guys, Grumpy sent us a whole box of foods, and Grumpy, I have not eaten the Skittles. Make sure you guys go over to grumpyacresfarms.com for premium freeze-dried food. They actually make some pretty awesome food. We're going to be giving away a box full of it. I mean, just one at a time, obviously, but we're just going to change. Let's rewrite that. We're going to change. We're going to be giving away a buttload of this stuff free to all the people who show up at Prep Stock. That I didn't say that right. Just a legal disclaimer. We have a limited amount, and we will be giving it away in the amount that we actually have. One per customer. Something like that. Sometimes you just put your foot in your mouth and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, currently the score is 23-23. We are tired, but yes, go to grumpyacresfarms.com and look at his stuff. Also, hint, hint, Grumpy, if you're still watching, you probably need to get the Spags bag on your website. Talk to Bobby, and yeah, I have customers that want to buy it. So, hint, hint. Maybe send me an email if you're curious, or if not, just fix the problem. All right, you know how this works, guys. We're going to go ahead and change off to the next template so you can see all of our, oh, look, Grumpy Acres is in the house on the next template. As usual, the guy's got his stuff together. He really does. Matter of fact, he's got a big comment right here. The 1911 I was issued in the service was made in 1953. The carbon buildup was permanent. No amount of cleaning would remove it, yet it fired every time. Yeah, well, that's because all the metal that had worn away was replaced by the carbon. And yes, believe it or not, Grumpy, I had a 45 as well. I had a 45 for about 3 months before we went to the 9mm. So yes, let's see here. What do we got here? Ian says, and that's why I run AK. Just need a hose to clean my rifle. You know what? It is. We'll just say I like the AK as well, guys. We'll just say that. Tuck says, hate cleaning pews, but it has to be done. Absolutely. And listen, guys, if we're going to talk about cleaning our pews, there are so many modern day chemicals that did not exist when I was in the service for cleaning firearms that make it extremely easy to clean your firearm. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, as long as you're not putting like 3,000 rounds every sitting through them, they're not that difficult to clean, guys. They're really not. They're just not that difficult. Let's see here. Rosie says, had a Caravelle, am I saying that right? Pistol that was lined out and returned uncleared, was about to kill, never leaned again. Okay, sounds like just a dangerous weapon situation. Let's see here. As a European, very limited on this stuff, but I can add that airsoft can teach us cover and dry fire training. Yes, Sal, absolutely. I know. Matter of fact, I also know was it All American Prepper is huge into airsoft, and it can teach you those things. It can teach you bad things and it can teach you good things, because there are some things that are associated with airsoft that will not work in the real world because bullets go through things. But for the most part, I would say it's about an 80% solution. It's a good way to learn stuff, and excellent comment, actually. All right, so we're going to turn that off, and let's see here. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. All right, so we talked about understand, clean your weapon. All right, now we're on to number 6. Yeah, Sal says, of course, but something is better than nothing. Absolutely, 100% completely agree. Time to drink the coffee. Okay, so ammunition knowledge and management, guys. As preppers, we're going to have different things. We're going to have a lot of it too. So we need to think about this kind of logistically. So ammunition types, understanding the different types of ammunition and their appropriate uses. For instance, you don't want to go target shooting with hollow tips. You don't want to be going target shooting with defensive rounds. You know, it's like, well, I need to have it completely to feel the same exactly as I'm going to feel it when I have to do it in the real world. And I'm telling you that it doesn't freaking matter. Use El Cheapo rounds in your firearms as long as you're not damaging them, and to train with, and then use the expensive rounds, which are designed to stop people for that. So, ammo types. Understand the different types of ammunition and their appropriate uses. Match the ammunition to your firearm for optimal performance and safety. For instance, some weapons don't like steel casings. Cha-ching! If you're an AK guy, you know what I'm talking about. But you also know that it tolerates them. It's just not perfect. That's kind of like running like an aluminum casing or a steel casing through a modern 9mm. Their tolerances are very tight. So you could have some problems with there. We also want to talk about storage. You know, the storage of ammunition, obviously, it's the same as food. Store in a cool, dry place. Ensure that you kept away from children and secure from potential theft, because in the end, it could be a barter item. It could also be that item that saves your life if you get yourself in a rock'em sock'em robot gunfight. So things like that are always important. All right, so I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now, but I will play catch up if I need to. Let's see here. What do we got here? Emergency situations and firearms use. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty here, because at this point, we have to start thinking about ourselves, okay? And first of all, you should have quick access to it. Obviously, this is your self-defense weapon. You need to have quick access. You know, you also need to develop strategies for accessing your firearm quickly in an emergency, short of it being on your body. Practice retrieving and readying your firearm under stress. In a stressful situation, things can get like a little out of control. They can get a little crazy. Your brain can start thinking about other things it doesn't need to think about. And if you don't have any practice, any muscle memory in doing these things, then you could very well make a decision that is bad for everybody, to include yourself. Decision making. Train to make split seconds decisions about when and how to use your firearm. I'm not talking about becoming John Wick. That's not what I'm talking about. Let me read it to you again. Train to make split second decisions about when and how to use your firearm. Understand the legal and moral implications of using deadly force. Now, I got an itch there on my mustache. Got something in the chat because I really wanted to get into detail. This is going to what I'm going to say here in the next few minutes is probably going to get under a couple people's skin, but that's okay. So let's see here. Ian says, you should cycle your ammo so one doesn't have bad ammo in your magazine. I shoot my self-defense ammo every 18 months to 2 years. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely smart. And speaking to that, Ian, if you guys, and I know it's expensive too, but if you practice as much as you probably should, you would actually be recycling. You should be rotating that pantry of ammunition. You see what I'm saying? Now, obviously, you're not going to have a pantry full of ammunition. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that, you know, you're going to the range and you buy yourself a couple boxes. And well, maybe you put those boxes on the back and maybe you slide it up and maybe you grab those 2 boxes that are the oldest ones, you know, maybe you do that. Something to think about, rotating that pantry of ammunition. Okay. And solid comment, Ian. Appreciate you, bro. All right. So you guys might want to consider, and I don't, I've actually, I think I've actually been given a code for one of these companies because I've been doing some research on them. But I'm not ready to throw that out there yet because I want to make that a definitive video instead of just this opinion piece. Okay. So you might want to consider defensive shooting insurance. In some states, they call it a concealed carry weapon insurance. Some different companies out there. You've got the USCCA, you've got US and Tax Law Shield, you've got Firearm Legal Protection, and My personal favorite is attorneys on retainer because they're actually lawyers and not insurance. Now, whichever plan you come up with, the idea behind the insurance, the general idea behind insurance is that you don't have to worry about this stuff. When you buy your car insurance, whatever kind you have, what level you have, something's going to happen, but nobody's going to be looking at you to replace a car. You know what I'm saying? If you have a high enough level of insurance, they'll be replacing your car. If there's a legal dispute, the lawyers between those insurance companies fight it out. That's how insurance works, right? Well, with defensive shooting insurance, okay, it's a little different because now you have criminality involved, and a lot of these insurance companies don't want to be involved in that. They want you to send them $15 a month. They want to send you whatever the amount they want. I'm not sure of the amounts, but they want you to send them that so much every month. But then when the time comes, some of these insurance companies are going, well, you didn't really read the fine print, and yeah, we're not going to do what we said we're going to do. And it's been happening more and more and more. And there's actually some landmark cases in the last year where these insurance companies have said, we're not doing that. And so you basically giving your money away for nothing. You have a false sense of security, which is why I like the attorneys on retainer. I recommend that you guys actually go watch some of their videos because they're the real deal. They're the real deal. I will also tell you not to be suckered in with online training because a lot of people want that. And some of these insurance companies are offering that. And then you get this happy, joy feeling because you got your online training and you got these people that are really looking out for you. And the emergency task force, 24/7, 365 days hotline. And the people you're talking to aren't even lawyers. So, and I hate to say it, but mostly just insurance company representatives. So in this day and age, with the things going the way they are, you might want to consider some form of defensive shooting insurance. I will not say which one I don't like. I will only tell you the one that I like, which is attorneys on retainer. So like I said, I'm going to be making a video on that in the future because I want it to be definitive. I want it to be like the go-to video about why I picked it and all of the reasons that I like and don't like about whatever. Okay. So it's something to think about. Gibbsby showed up. Good morning, my friend. Let's go ahead and go to the chat because that should have generated a little of speculation, a little bit of hoopla in the chat. Let's see here. Ian says, yes, I cycle my training ammo, but I'm normally don't buy hollow points ammo. Yeah. And guys, I will, there are certain legal ramifications to using hollow points in certain states. Some states are not legal. In some states, the liberal attorney general or the liberal district attorneys will see that as you intended to kill him, well, yeah, that's why they call it deadly force, dumbass. But anyway, you can't say that in a court of law. Anywho, let's see. Oops is saying that's all insurance these days, ain't it? Don't want to cover what they're supposed to cover. In this particular case, I have had nothing but good interactions with insurance companies in my past. So I can't tell you about today, but I can tell you that with defensive shooting, they have a lot of clauses inside their insurance. It's insurance, guys. And if you break one of these insurance guidelines or clauses, then they don't have to do what they said they're going to do. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way because it's very serious if you have to use it. What do we got here? Tuck says, especially homeowners insurance. Homeowners is the worst. Yeah, unfortunately, that's very true too. I mean, some homeowners insurance, I've only had to use it one time, and I still ended up paying like $5,000. So, it's interesting. Andy says, I cycle my range rounds for sure. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to, okay, we're not going to do that. Let's go with Let's go. We need let's see here. We did those guys. You know what? Let's go ahead and do a promo on water supply company, guys. Or I'm sorry, water supply tanks. So, shameless promotion. Water supply tanks is one of the supporters or the sponsors for PrepStock, prepstock.net. If you don't have your tickets, go there and get them now. Quit screwing around. I saw some chat the other day amongst some of my followers that were talking about how they can't figure out where the campsites are. Because they waited too long to get their tickets. They waited too long to get engaged. And if you need more help, you guys know how to find me. I know who you are. And I can point you in the right direction. But as far as water supply tanks, or should I say watersupplytanks.com, guys, this is that's a 55-gallon tank right there. That's the one that's in my basement. That's the one that I use for my water preparedness. Basically, fill that sucker up, put the chemicals in it. I don't have to touch that thing for 5 years if I don't want to. Now, I do recycle it every 6 months because I want my water to taste good, but it's nice to know that I don't have to. Think about it, guys. You could stick that thing almost anywhere. Water supply tanks. It's not monstrous either, guys. It's like this big. It's like this big. It's like this tall. It's like that tall. It's not huge. It's not huge. You could use it for a bookshelf. All right, guys. Water tanks, watersupplytanks.com. Go there, check those guys out. There's a link. There's a link for everything I'm talking about in the description. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that template. Pacha. There we go. Okay, so I need to go back to the chat. Somebody said something. Where we at? Let's see here. Ian says, got my campsite, looking for a fun weekend. Yes, I did not realize how many of my followers are actually going. It's kind of weird for me. I'm normally the guy that you don't know who or where he is. He just pops up on the interwebs. It'll be very interesting to meet you all in person. I'll be wearing my body armor. Can't take any chances. Let's see here. Saul says, found I guess that's a 250 liter pod up rain collector for €50. Gotcha, bro. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. That's right. You didn't think I know how to speak that Eurometric stuff, did you? Been there, done that. Tuck says, I like the idea of that 55-gallon show on the screen for my apartment. Ease in, ease out. I'd build a rolling stand for it. There you go, bro. The only thing that you must pay attention to is floor strength because water weighs. All right, do the math. Figure out how much that sucker's going to weigh, 325 pounds. And be aware, okay? Just telling you. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Probably the safest thing I do. Don't have $1 on my keyboard. I got you, Sal. I got you. All right, let's see here. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else in the other chat. Let's take a sip of coffee, and the current score is 22-23. You know, Rumble's winning. Rumble's winning by 1 right now. Tuck says, Florida, solid concrete floors. That'll work. That'll work. Just get it off the concrete. There's a spigot on the bottom of those 55-gallon ones that makes it, but it's set low that it would be difficult to put a hose to it to drain it out. So before you fill all that water, get it up a little bit. Get it on like one of the like a reinforced pallet. I would put it on that. That way it gets it up high enough. You also want it to be off that concrete too. That is just not good. That's not good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. Integration of overall preparedness plan. I'm sorry, integration with. We talked about all the stuff that you need to be thinking about as far as firearms. Now, what we need to do is talk about integrating it into our plan. We need to talk about coordination. You know, we need to integrate your firearms training with other preparedness activities, such as home security measures and evacuation plans. You may find yourself in a situation where not only are you defending your home, but you may find yourself in a situation where you have to evacuate from your home. And now you're going to be in a chaotic environment where there may be people trying to take advantage of you and yours. You can't let that happen. So Make sure that you coordinate or integrate your firearms training with other preparedness activities such as home security measures and evacuation plans. You like how I did that? Like in and out, back and forth. Read it back. Yeah. Family involvement. Educate family members on firearm safety and develop a cohesive plan for how they should respond if a firearm needs to be used defensively. There was damn it, what do they call it when somebody breaks into your house? It's not a burglary anymore. It's like they break into your house and they want to mess you up or something, or want to be bad people. They just don't want to steal your stuff. Somebody put in the chat what that's called. That happened some months ago, and there was a woman who was at home. She just heard this weird sound and then checked her doorbell, and there's guys trying to break through her door. She draws her firearm as they come through the door. They stop dead in their tracks. The kids had been briefed on what to do if mom draws her firearm to protect the house at the front door. And the kids immediately went into the living room where the other firearms were tucked away, pulled those firearms out, came back in, and backed mom up. That happened like that. So as she's screaming for these people to get out of her house at gunpoint, and they're deciding whether they can take this little woman or not, because there's 3 or 4 of them, and the kids show up with a couple of ARs over mom's shoulder, they very quickly decided it is time to go. Now, that only happened because she had educated her family members on firearm safety and developed a cohesive plan for how they should respond if a firearm needs to be used defensively. Yeah, that's pretty mass. It's pretty happy. Home invasion. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate it. Menacing. That may be a state term, but yes, home invasion. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Appreciate you, Rose. Let's see here. Gibbsby says, I'm guilty of buying fun ammo like dragons, breath, and tracers just to see how they work. No, you're not. You're just educating yourself. You probably figured out that the tracers are nice, but tracers work both ways. And dragon's breath is nice, but yeah, it's not really, it's not something I would use. I mean, it's just not. Okay, let's go ahead and turn that off right there. Got to run. Talk to you later, LP. Good day. Talk to you later, Bob. Pete. What do we got here? Got 6 grands. Really like that. Gotcha. All right. So the second to last thing we're going to talk about is first aid and trauma response. Now, medical training, we're going to obtain basic first aid and trauma response training. Learn to treat a gunshot wound and other injuries that may occur during a defensive shooting. Medical kit. Keep a well-stocked medical kit readily available, including items like tourniquets, Israeli bandages, chest seals, hemostatic agents, and bandages. Guys, you know, if you're going to the range or you're firing a weapon, so for some reason, you should probably have at the minimum a tourniquet. But if you've got a full-up kit that's ready to do trauma 1 and 2, then you're going to be good to go. All right, let's see here. And lastly, mindset and ethical considerations. So if you've never shot anybody, you don't understand what's going to happen. So let's talk about defensive mindset. We need to develop a defensive mindset that emphasizes de-escalation and avoidance when possible. Use your firearm only as a last resort. We should not be going on, let's hunt Harry the human. That should not be the plan. Okay, your everything should be focused on de-escalation and avoidance, because if you have to use it, you're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life. Ethics and responsibility. Reflect on the ethical responsibility of carrying and potentially using a firearm. Actually think about what you may or may not have to do. Okay? Actually think about it before you decide to strap one on. Okay? All in the name of self-defense and the Constitution of America. Okay? Actually think about it before you do it. Okay? You need to understand the gravity of taking a life and strive to act responsibly and justly in all situations. Okay? There's a lot of laws. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of ethics that you're going to have to deal with if you decide to strap up. And I'm guessing many of you have already done that, but maybe even as experienced gun owners, concealed carries, open carry guys, maybe an annual reflection on what you'll have to deal with if you have to do that, if you have to use your firearm in defense. Okay. Oh, let's see here. Let's see. Where we got here? Never use a tampon. Yes, absolutely. They're useless. Let's see here. Rose says, hopefully we don't evolve that direction, but fear is coming. Yes, fear is already here, Rose. Fear is already here. It is very real. And there are people out there that are not staying, they're not staying educated. They're not staying on top of things from the perspective of being prepared for the possible need for these items of self-defense and the American way of life. I mean, it is what it is. We're the only country that's like this, and we're free for a reason. So who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully we can only hope for the best, but we must prepare for the worst. All right. So in closing, by covering these aspects, you can enhance your preparedness and ensure that you are a responsible and effective firearm owner and user. All right, guys, that's going to be about it. We basically hit our hour mark. I think it's great. I want to let you guys know this is going to be my last live stream until next Monday because the holiday's right around the corner. Going to be making a trip. I'll probably still be doing some little snippets here, little snippets there. I might even get in a live streamer here or there if I can. But we'll see what happens. Remember, it's a holiday, and I've got a special message for all the Patreons that'll actually come out on the 4th in the morning. So, guys, remember what Independence Day is about because it's here, and obviously there's things going on in the world or in our U.S. world, in our nation that are very reminiscent to the things that sparked Independence Day. So I think that's going to be about it. Stay safe. Have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on the way out. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. I'm here Monday through Friday and even do a little some videos from time to time. If you could please take a look at the links in the description. There might be something there that interests you that will support this channel. We're going to have a great weekend, and I shall talk to you guys on Monday. Bye-bye. I'm going to push a button now, somehow.